Hey, I'm here with Dan Lesniak, and Dan is a billion-dollar agent. Super thrilled to have him on the program. I was on Dan's hyper-fast agent a few months ago, and it was exciting to talk to Dan. So it's great to have you here, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to be on your show, and I enjoyed having you on ours. That was only a few months ago, but seems
Yeah,
like a completely different world.
it seems like a
So,
different lifetime almost, right? It's so
right.
crazy. But for people that haven't, come across you yet, and I know they will because you're huge everywhere. But can you give a little background on yourself?
Sure. I got into real estate almost a decade ago now. I'm still surprised it's been that long. And like a lot of agents, this was not something I grew up really even knowing was a career, or certainly not thinking I would do. But in my time in the Navy, I had access through the VA loan to buy homes, a lot
Nice.
sooner than many people may have had the
Hmm.
opportunity. So I bought my first home at the age of 23, I believe. And, I kept buying and selling homes, renting them out, that kind of stuff, the do it yourself type investor. And my last tour of duty was at the Pentagon. So I got out. I had a MBA at the time, and I had a defense contracting job, which was great.
Yeah.
A lot of security, but not a lot of motivation
Right.
really to work hard in that environment. So I knew I wanted something different. I thought I would go into strategy consulting with one of the big three firms, but this was, I graduated back in 2010, and they really weren't hiring, but I kept interviewing and interviewing and interviewing. And
Hmm.
I kept getting this feedback that we think you are great at the technical side of what this job will require, but we have doubts about your ability as a salesperson, which was also a part
That's
of the consulting
interesting.
world.
Uh-huh.
So I was still stubborn and really pursuing this, and thought, all
Right.
right, well, what do I need to do to get another shot? And they said, well, go get a different experience, come back in a year and we'll think about it. So I was buying like my second home, I believe, in the area at the time. So I thought, all right, I'll get my real estate license. I'll sell a few homes for friends and family. And
Just prove yourself.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And my business really took off quickly. I decided not to really focus on like SOI
Hmm.
and the which is how a lot
Traditional.
of agents start out, right? And I
Yeah.
focused on 180, 190 condos in the building I lived in, and I ended up
Wow.
getting tremendous amount of market share in there really, really quickly. And
How did you do that? I mean, break that down because you did like a record-breaking amount of business. You did 22 million in your first year, which I'm sure was one of the, if not the number one in the country. It's incredible.
yeah, I haven't come across, I don't know if they keep records, but I haven't come across like anyone who's done that in year
Mm.
one.
No.
Um, so yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I really narrowed my focus and was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get as much business out of these 190 condos as possible.
Did you call them?
And
Did you door knock? What did you do exactly?
I did everything. I mean, I think you want to, and then I kind of lay out this all in the book I wrote about it, but you want to have this strategy when you're entering a new market or starting off, where you reach your target audience that you hopefully have narrowly defined,
Hmm.
with a unique value proposition, and you reach them in multiple ways. So
Yeah.
I did events at the condo building. I did direct mail. I did emails. I got in, I developed relationships with the building manager, the assistant managers, so they would tell me if they heard if someone was thinking about moving, like in
Hmm.
and out. So it was really, multifaceted way of reaching out to them. And
And it
it
worked.
worked. It worked really, really quickly. With I remember the beginning of 2012, I looked at my pipeline and I was like, wow, I've got more in commissions than I'm going to make at my contracting job in a year. I should probably just quit that job. And I
That's what I was going to ask you. So
I
were you
quit.
working full time at the other place and doing real estate at the same time?
Yeah, for the first first few months, I was doing both at the same time.
Wow.
And, I think if you're, there's a couple like ways you can start
Mm-hmm.
in real estate. Um, you can kind of bootstrap it, which was what I did. Like I worked 45 hours at one job and then 45 hours at, real estate.
Right.
And it it worked out okay because most people want to meet after work
Yeah.
or look at homes after work. So it was quite easy to do, really. But you just got to kind of put the work in, or you can save up money and kind of go all in for 6 months. So I think there's a lot of different ways to do it,
That cat.
and
Yeah.
that way it worked really well for me.
Were you married at the time? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Okay. What did your significant other, she was fully supportive, or they were fully supportive?
Um, Not really.
Because that's a lot of hours to work is the reason I bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That relationship didn't really
Oh,
last. So
sorry. Okay.
no, it's fine. I'm in a much better situation now. But
Good.
I think I think she was a little excited for what she saw happening, but then she was very security driven, and like I
Mm,
probably could have quit my day job like
mm-hmm.
months before
Yeah.
I did, but there was, we
That
had a
pull for
misalignment
security.
on security
Yeah.
and
I
other
think
issues,
that's
obviously, but yeah.
I think that's a really interesting conversation is, it's like a family commitment sometimes. And we think of it as our commitment, but everybody's got to be all in on it because it's almost like a family business. And in a lot of ways, it is a family business. I mean, I think it's a really interesting missed point for some people. So you got to, you quit your contracting job and then you just started to ramp up. Did you immediately like start building a team out? Oh, because I know you have a massive team now, but how did that evolution happen?
Yeah, so my first year I was solo. I did about 37 deals for a little over 22 million as a solo agent. At the end of that year, I started to hire uh, and build out a team. So I think by like month 3 of my second year, I had 5 or 6 people on the team, two admins and 3 or 4 agents.
Buyers agents? Is that what they primarily were?
Correct. Yep.
Hmm. And you kept in the listing role at that point. You stayed in the listing wheelhouse.
I stayed in the listing and worked with buyers that were like in that move up buyer category.
Hmm. So in training your agents, so you're bringing agents on now as part of your team. What does that look like? Do you go out with them? I mean, are you just training in office? How do you handle that?
So right now, like we were a lot different than I was back in 2013, and so I built that team up to about 7 or 8 people, and then about a year into that, I met Carrie and Carrie Scholl. We ended up dating, became good friends, uh, got married. She was already in the real estate business and
Mm,
had a team, similar size team, maybe a little bit bigger, and we combined them, and then a year after that formed our own brokerage, and we've grown it to about I think we have like close to 50 agents now, listing agents and
nice.
buyers agents,
Wow.
and a ton of admin. So we really focus on like the support and the staff, and like we have inside sales agents that set the appointments. We
Hmm.
have a big marketing team, and now we're to the point where we are hiring like senior managers, C-level type people to really
Yeah.
help grow and expand. So we do have a sales manager in place now
Hmm. Hmm.
that will
Runs the thing.
train the new agents
Hmm. Hmm.
and really monitor the production of all of the agents.
Yeah.
I think in the early stages, though, Carrie and I would both have other agents come with us on appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Now our new agents, they will pick senior agents on the team and shadow them. Right. They'll shadow them for various parts of the the process. So they'll shadow them on a first appointment, at an open house, at a closing, at a showing, at a home inspection. So that's like how we do the kind of the on the job training. Yeah, OJT.
Yeah. So going back in time when you were out yourself killing it in your first year, I mean, I think a lot of agents, when they're in their first couple years, they get at bat, like they get in a position with a buyer or they get in a position with a seller, but because they're newer, they don't close. What was your kind of path with a buyer and path with the seller to take them through that journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest reason that I ended up getting a lot of business was just the follow up. I was very aggressive with my follow up, and I would just keep following up until I got a deal done or until they said yes. And
was it follow up by text, by phone, by email, by everything?
Yeah, I was very persistent in that. I think the first, maybe, I don't know, out of the first 5 people I met with, I probably signed like 2 of them, right? So it wasn't like I had an off the charts like closing rate, but I just kept looking for at bats, kept looking for opportunities, and then tried to follow up with people.
Did you use a CRM right out of the gate, like a CRM system right out of the gate, or did you just wing it?
I did not do that right away. I probably used like crude spreadsheets, but I'm not even 100% sure. I just
made it happen.
I'm sure every day and every week I probably treated prospects like almost like a to-do list, where I would just like write out the ones I know I needed to,
like a hot list, warm list.
And,
yeah. So was it a consistent pattern or just different or unique for every person? I'm curious.
On the
follow
up.
Yeah.
It was probably a mix of both. Like if I met someone at an open house, I probably had some type of message that was cut and paste. I probably tailored it though to what they needed. So if they talked about a 2-bedroom condo, I'm sure I like put links to ones I thought would be good in there.
Condos. Yeah.
So I think I kind of had a system, even if I didn't realize it, that I followed, but I tailored it
to each client,
to each person.
Let's talk about today. So is your team using CRM today throughout your team?
Yes, they use Infusionsoft.
Infusionsoft. That's a high level platform.
Yeah, I don't recommend it for
it's super confusing for some people.
Like people that are solo agents or smaller teams.
What do you recommend for solo small teams? What would be your recommendation?
I think there's a lot of options, and like the kind of probably canned response to that is whatever one you're going to use. So that's really the best advice I would give there. And it's like the same when my dad asked me like about a workout machine, like what's the best one? I'm always like, well, the one you'll use every day. So
the one you'll get on, right?
Right. So I think it's kind of the same with CRMs. I know there's like Line Desk and a ton. I don't
Top Producer, Referral Maker, all those.
Producer. Yeah. Some people use Boomtown as a CRM, even though that's also like a lead gen platform. So
what tech? What tech
I would
do you?
Probably. Oh, sorry. I just got one last thing. I would probably stick to one that is like dedicated as a CRM instead of the ones that are a combination of CRM plus lead gen.
Yeah, you got to specialize in one thing or the other, right? What tech do you guys use in your team that really works for you guys? I mean, what is like the standout tech tools that you guys are using?
Right now it's Zoom. Which, like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have, if you asked me this in February, I wouldn't have said that. But
Right.
right now, like, Zoom is like
How are you using
the
Zoom
star of
effectively? Let's talk
2020.
about Zoom. Yeah, what are you doing with it?
Yeah, so we're using it for to how we interface with the team, and we're using it for how we interface with clients and the public. So when COVID, lockdowns started happening, and it was about the middle of March for our region when the lockdowns started. We started, we changed our script with the inside sales agents. So on the phone, they would ask clients if they wanted to meet in person or if they preferred to meet on Zoom.
Mm,
And I think, on that kind of became the either or question that we put
yeah,
at the end, right? Because if you ask someone, like, do you want to book an appointment? They can say yes or no. But if you ask them, hey, should we set an appointment on in person or on Zoom?
it's either or. You're a winner either way,
Right.
right? It's
So
just
we
perfect.
changed that in the script. I put out a little training video to the team, which I put on YouTube actually as well, just on how to do sales meetings on Zoom. And so they do our buyer presentation on Zoom, and sometimes they do the listing presentation on Zoom as well. And the
Do you have a
seller.
sense of what the percentage is? Like, what percentage of your clients prefer Zoom over a live meeting?
Well, it's shifting. So back in March, we went from 70 live appointments a week to um back then it was like the first week it was like 40 of the appointments were on Zoom and 30 were in person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think as the environment has changed, things have opened up, people are less
Going the other
scared
way.
maybe.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's probably a third are still on Zoom and about two-thirds in person.
I'm curious,
So
do you think that after COVID ends, and I know we don't know when that's going to be, do you feel like you'll still leave that option open and people will take advantage of it, or will you close that option down?
yeah, I think we'll probably have it as like a safety valve, like
Mm-hmm.
instead of taking a no, but we'll probably still push for the in
The
person.
in
But
person. Mm-hmm. You find your close ratio is higher always in person, right?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the no. This is what's kind of funny is the no show rate is higher on Zoom.
Hmm.
So my theory, and who knows if it's right, but I think people probably don't feel as committed or that you committed as much because they're not leaving you hanging like at the office or the coffee shop or wherever that in-person appointment is.
Right.
So the no-show rate is a little higher, I think.
Much higher. Yeah, I agree. We use a system called Calendly. I'm sure you use it too. But in that system, which has helped with the no-shows, is to have that follow-up, like it's 6 hours, and it counts it down. It sends them an email 1 hour, sends them an email, and then it sends them a text, and then it sends them another text. So it doesn't cure it, but it helps a little bit. We found the Calendly app for sure. Um, with your team, do you guys use a set like listing presentation, a set buyer presentation?
We do. Yep. We've got
Yep.
the same buyer presentation, same listing presentation. Everybody's trained on it. And in theory, it should be the same experience, no matter which agent is meeting with the client.
Hmm. What is your when you're have you have multiple ISA agents? I'm just curious. Are they calling FISBOs, expireds? Are they calling circle marketing? Who are they calling?
They are primarily calling warm leads.
That
So
people that have emailed in?
people that have responded to some form of marketing or come to an open house or raise their hand in some way.
Yeah.
I think probably 10% of their calls right now are to expireds and to we do some circle prospecting for our open houses, but
Hmm.
90% are calling people that have registered with us somehow.
And so you have a large ad spend, then it must be for like social media marketing and Google pay-per-click. Is that how you're driving those leads?
Yeah, we do a lot on social media. We do Google PPC. We do we get a lot of organic. We spend time developing content, blogs, all that kind of stuff. We do pretty good business on Zillow as well.
Mm-hmm. So are you still you're still buying leads on Zillow then?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think a lot of a lot of people haven't gone full on into social media marketing as much as they should. And I'm just curious, is your flow, because I'm talking to a lot of people that have this kind of funnel when it comes to their social media, where they get somebody to, like you just mentioned the word, raise their hand, and the raising of the hand is some kind of an engagement ad, and then it's followed by some kind of item of value you're offering, and you're trying to capture a lead. Is that kind of how you do it, and you're remarketing to those people?
Yeah. So on the like social media ads, we may offer them a download. We may offer them, we have a home evaluation tool where if they put in their criteria, we can estimate, what their home is. And it's a little bit more advanced than like the Zillow one. So
Estimates.
they can put in like more information about it so that we hopefully give them a better answer. That's one of the things we give. And
With the
sometimes it's a webinar. Now we'll do like an
mm,
informational webinar, so all sorts of things like that. And then in the funnel, whenever they take anything from us, like we try to get them to book an appointment actually through Calendly, right there in the funnel. If they don't, then it kind of triggers like our CRM to follow up with them through emails, phone calls if we have a number, and then remarketing, retargeting ads as well.
Gotcha. So they're getting sprinkled on throughout. So that's really interesting with the webinars. Are those live webinars you're doing, or is it recorded webinars you're doing? Like when you're driving them
Yeah,
through.
we've done live so
Mm-hmm.
far. We've maybe tested a few recorded ones, but we haven't done like a 24/7 kind of always on evergreen webinar yet.
Yeah. So with your live webinar, like what are the topics that are, trending well for you? Is it like home buying tips, home selling tips, or both?
We do a lot more home buyer ones. Every now and then we'll do a seller one, but it basically replaces a home buying, in-person seminar.
Got
So
it.
it's designed for the first time home buyer. We will do specialty topics though from time to time too. Like we will do how to buy new construction.
Mm-hmm.
We just did one for sellers on, we brought on a stager, and so it was like a
No, that's cool.
interviewing the stager on how that works.
What's
And
your
then
attendance at those things? I mean, do you get 20 people, 10 people, 100 people?
yeah, it just depends on the topic
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. But on the buyer seminars, they're pretty close, which is surprising. I thought they'd be higher, but they're pretty close to what we would do in person. So we'll do 2 or 3 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and we typically get 30 to 40 people register, and like 15 to 20 will show up.
Show up. Yeah, that's good. That's great. That's a high number actually. But because once they registered, you've collected information, you can follow up. So I mean, that's 90% of it right there.
Yeah, the webinars, it's really like, yes, it's great to convert them on the webinar, but it's also building your email list. So
Yeah, for sure. So with your have you tracked your conversion rate for people that attend that to actually people that come out the other side and close?
we do, and it's gosh, lead source and conversion is like always like so hard to dial in, because sometimes it takes 6 to 12 months. So
Right.
it's like and I guess I would kind of say this about tracking conversion in general. Like if you generate a bunch of leads this month and then have a bunch of closings this month, like those closings were from leads you did
Yeah.
like anywhere from 3
6 months ago.
months to a year ago. So
Right. Yeah.
it's
It's
I
hard.
have a little bit of an engineering background from my time in the Navy, so to me it's just a little confusing to dial in. But
Yeah.
I know when we do a buyer seminar,
Hmm.
we usually get like 2 people,
Yeah.
3 people maybe a max, that will sign up buyer agreement that night.
Oh wow. And then go out and start looking at homes soon. I get it.
So Yeah, if we get 40 people to opt in, we're probably getting 2 now clients, and then a bunch of people that could be clients in the next
That
6 months
come,
to
yeah,
2 years.
that
Yeah.
come through. So with the downloads, is that kind of a just like an item of value, something like 5 ways to buy a home, 10 ways to buy new construction kind of thing?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're usually always list like
Hmm.
seven things to do if your home didn't sell the first time. Like we do that one for expireds.
Hmm.
You know, 11 ways to make more money with when selling your home, and things like that. Like 7 mistakes to avoid when buying your first home.
Yeah.
So they're all things like that. And these types of leads, by the way, like these people that take the items of value or come through Facebook
Hmm.
or social media, they are a lot cheaper than Zillow,
Right.
but they're also further out.
Yeah.
So the Zillow lead probably cost us like 8 to 10 times as much as the Facebook lead,
Hmm.
but that Zillow lead is typically like 3 to 6 months, whereas we're finding like social media leads are more like a year or more. So um, I think there's definitely a bigger bang for your buck with the leads you can get on social media, but you also have to realize that like over 90% of those leads are not now buyers. So
Right.
you have to have the follow-up systems, stay in touch systems to make those profitable.
Yeah, you got to have a really strong like incubation plan, remarketing plan to be in front of those people all the time. That's really interesting. Do you find that with your remarketing campaigns, I'm sure you track the cost of an acquisition for a lead on remarketing. It's significantly cheaper than a cost of like a new lead for a webinar.
Correct, because
Yeah,
it's
you've
much
already
more
warmed them up.
it's a lot more targeting. Yeah, and they've seen you before, and yep.
What talk about if you don't mind, your targeting. Like when you're targeting, that's always a big topic. Like who do I target? What's my ideal client model? What does that look like for you? Do you have multiple targets you have built out that you're like, this ads for this target group, this ads for this target group?
Yeah, we do seller ads, we do buyer ones, new construction groups. So we've got multiple ways to target, and then we of course have like custom audiences where we do general branding and awareness ads to our past clients and to people in our database, to try to get referrals or just kind of stay in touch with them. So it's there's a lot of different groups, a lot of different ways that you can target. They have Facebook has put more restrictions on what you can do over time, so you can't target as tight a geographical area as you
Hmm.
used to be able to. So
Yeah.
you have to do a bigger area.
Hmm.
Um, and some of the interest questions and stuff like that you can't do. Like they used to let you target by like income, and
Right. Yeah. They changed
uh,
all that.
so yeah,
Um,
now I think you still make the ad to like who you're trying to attract. It's just you may have to put that ad in front of more people.
Broader audience. Yeah. So I'm just curious, are you still doing are you doing any kind of like direct mail campaigns like into neighborhood, the geographic old school farming like that?
We stopped most direct mail
Hmm.
about almost 3 years ago, so we haven't
Hmm.
we haven't done direct mail in a while.
Okay. And,
We still mail people in our database and past clients when we do events and stuff like that, but we have not done like the mass
not farming kind of
geo
things. Yeah.
farming, which that still works. I don't think it's as um, efficient as what you can do online now,
Right.
but
Do you
it does still work.
do you find that since COVID that agents have pulled back on their budget with a lot of things, and are you gaining market share through this event? Because I'm seeing a lot of top producers are.
Yeah, we definitely gained market share. Our numbers really didn't. Our overall numbers didn't go down. We increased a little bit, and
Hmm.
I think we're on pace to do over 800 deals this year, and that number keeps going up because we're doing more and more. Last year we were a little under 700, and so we're gaining, and our market number of transactions has gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Prices have actually stayed the same or gone up. So
Right.
like, you know, DC in that area has generally been a seller's market for the last decade, and 1 to 2 months of inventory. So the inventory levels didn't really change. Like you kind of lost the same ratio of buyers and sellers, and I think our market share has definitely gone up.
Is your cost per lead gone down as people have come out of Facebook's spend? Because I'm hearing that too, or is it about the same?
No, it definitely went down. I think Facebook, I think in general, the pricing went down because they have so many more impressions to sell.
Right.
Like their supply went up. So
yeah, so their costs went down.
Yeah, so their costs went down, and then early on, at least, I'm not 100% sure it's still true, but early on, our Zillow costs went down as well too. I think a lot of agents started cutting.
Yeah.
And we definitely back in March, like, cut things that we didn't think we would need anymore. So office related expenses and other things that we didn't think we needed to like generate a lead, we got rid of, and we cut our inefficient lead sources. But like overall, our marketing budget is bigger now than it was in February.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you leaned into the market instead of away from it, which is what a lot of agents have leaned away. And I think it's costing them market share for sure. Let me ask you about, because everybody kind of focuses on Facebook, but you on Instagram, are you in marketing on Instagram as well? And what's the difference? I mean, is there one better than the other? I mean, what have you noticed?
Yeah, we market on both. I think and we do YouTube as well. I think on Instagram, it's probably a younger platform than Facebook, so we focus more on buyers there, and then on Facebook we focus more on sellers. But we do all ads on all the different platforms. But I think in general Instagram's a little bit cheaper, especially in the stories. Story ads are a lot cheaper, and it's generally like a younger platform. And we'll probably start looking at how to advertise on TikTok soon as well.
Wow. I know a lot of people are going there, and I've just been reading that some people are getting some transactions out of it, so that's interesting.
We hired someone from TikTok. They reached out. So like I've been kind of personally on it, just doing more personal stuff than real estate, sometimes real estate, and
right.
Just kind of learning the platform and making content on there. And I think it's probably something that's going to evolve a lot in the next couple of years. And it's probably where Instagram was back in 2013 or 14, but definitely like aging up. And I've been using it for a year, and I've already noticed that I'm seeing more adults on there, and
they're coming on, not just kids anymore. Yeah.
It's aging up.
So with your ads in general, are all of your ads video-based ads, or are they a mix of video-based ads and pictures? And how do you do that?
Yeah, they're a mix. So there'll be videos, sometimes pictures. Sometimes we kind of do like slideshows with pictures moving in and out. So we do a mix of all different.
Are your videos like professional shot, or are they just kind of more raw, like what we're doing here?
We have videographers on staff. We have one right now, and then some contractors that we use for other things. So sometimes they are, sometimes I shoot them too. Like Carrie and I did one at the beginning of COVID, and we set up like 2 cameras and had her on Zoom, like pretending to be on Zoom.
Right.
And we had each of our 3 kids come in and like interrupt her or cry or something, which like they naturally did. They were good actors. And then her tagline was like, we know you love your family, but let's face it, they're not the best coworkers. Do you
Right.
need help, finding a place with room for a home office? Because that was one of our like kind of hypotheses, is that perhaps people in high paying jobs are going to get to work from home a lot more,
Yeah.
and they want more indoor and outdoor space. Maybe they're not as driven to live close to the city, and then the commute means
Yeah.
less. So we kind of made that video ad to kind of deliver that message, and that one actually did really well. And it was just like I shot it on 2 cameras, and then someone on our team edited it. But
Figured it out. How
yeah,
long?
it's not hard to do. Like I think a lot of agents are maybe afraid of video, but it's like anything else. Like the first couple times you do it, or a few months, they may be bad, but you just
Hey,
got to
putting it
keep
out.
doing it. And you have to realize too that the attention cycle, and I think this is a combination of social media, the media in general. Like I think people's attention cycle is getting a lot shorter, so you have to
Mhm.
like constantly make more content. But if you make something that's just not good,
Yeah.
like people either aren't going to see it or not care, not remember, and you just have to be like okay with it, and keep making stuff.
Just on a technical side with video, because everybody's talking about video. It's like everybody's conversation point right now. But with video, do you have a script when you're doing video, or do you just wing it? And this is a bit.
uh Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but i
Uh,
try I try to like think of points,
hmm
and maybe like practice a little bit. But if you're you don't want to come across like you're trying to memorize or read, because then
Yeah.
it doesn't sound natural. It sounds a little awkward. So
hmm
I try to just think of points, and um, not really like I'm forcing a script, or it comes off awkward, I think.
Do you have a sweet spot for how long you make videos? I'm just curious. Like,
Usually shorter is better. Again, I think
uh,
attention spans are going down. So like on an ad, if it's on Instagram, like
gotta
we
be
do a lot
60
of
seconds.
yeah, they're short, but um we're typically not doing stuff that's over 30 to 60 seconds.
So
That's
it's,
kind of
it's
the
quick.
zone we're in. Is and if you go longer than that, it's like the longer you go, the better it's got to really be
Yeah, to
to get
hold them.
someone.
Right. I'm also curious on there's short form ads where you have just a little bit of text, long formats where you have a lot more text. Do you have a preference of how you do that, or is it different every time?
We do both. I think short form, it's a little easier to get their attention
Hmm
on the written part. Long form, it's a little bit harder to get their attention,
Yeah.
but if they get into it, like engagement and conversion probably goes up. So I think with that, you should probably test both.
And in terms of testing, how long do you give an ad before you kind of evaluate it, kill it, keep it, that kind of thing? Do it for a week? Do you do it for 2 weeks?
Typically like 1 to 2 weeks, and we'll look at the cost per click, cost per impression, all that kind of, the metrics, how many leads come in off it. And we don't necessarily like kill it. We'll like,
Adjust it.
adjust the copy, adjust the parameters of who's seeing the ad. So we'll test different things.
Are you managing that yourself, or do you have somebody in your office that does all that for you?
We have someone on our team that does ads and SEO. I used to run them myself though, so like I can get in the platform and
Dig
do
in.
it, and I understand it, but that's not my focus right now.
Do you find that because YouTube, I think very very few agents, I bet it's less than 5% are using YouTube for a ad platform. What's your feeling on that? Is it a strong platform? Is it a big part of your spend? Is it 10%, 20% of your spend? What would you look at?
Yeah, YouTube is definitely a big opportunity because it's underutilized, and
Mm-hmm.
not as many agents are on there, and like they offer you, you can do a lot of cool stuff with it, like I think it's called the pre-roll ads, especially like, you can put pre-roll ads on like every other agent's organic videos,
That's crazy.
and they only charge you if the person clicks on, continue watching, right? Because most of the pre-roll ads are like 10 to 15 seconds, and
Quick.
yeah, it says like skip to video, right? Um, so like you can like get at least a branding effect and awareness effect
Hmm.
for ads you're not even being charged for.
Wow.
I think the interface and just it's not as easy as Facebook,
Hmm.
and people are more comfortable with Facebook. So like everybody talks about Facebook ads, but YouTube is like an area that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, but it's, I think,
A
a
hot
huge
spot.
opportunity.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you do any LinkedIn ads? I'm curious. LinkedIn.
Yeah, we have. I don't know if we're running any like buyer or seller ads on there right now. We've probably done more recruiting ads on there than
Hmm.
like ads for buyers and sellers.
So you're living the dream here for some people because right now you're down in Florida, right? And we were talking about this before the show started. So I'm living the dream, meaning that you're in Florida. A lot of us would love to be there, sunny weather. But your team is based in Washington, D.C., right?
Correct.
So how are you managing from a distance your team? I mean, how's that looking? Is it all just through Zoom and virtual meetings and that kind of thing?
Yes, primarily through Zoom, and this wasn't something we planned on doing this year, but we had a house down here that we Airbnb'd, and we would use it like probably 2 months of the year total, like, a couple weeks here and there. But we came down in March for what was planned for a couple weeks, and the lockdown happened, and we couldn't get in a room with 10 of our team members anyway, and we have like
Right.
80 or 90 of them now. So we started doing virtual meetings for our weekly team meeting on Zoom. We do training on Zoom. Like before this podcast, I did a marketing team meeting on Zoom. So we're doing all of our meetings on Zoom, and in a lot of ways, we're like more dialed in on our like than we
Yeah.
ever have been on our systems, on our analytics, on like having dashboards and scoreboards to analyze things. So it's, I don't know why that's happened, if the change of environment caused that or just our focus on things, but we're more dialed in on kind of like business metrics and
Hmm.
training than ever before.
More efficient. That's why I feel like a lot of businesses had to get super efficient, super fast. You cut a lot of fat and you get really dialed in on what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And this is really interesting. What we will continue to do after COVID, I think is interesting. Like, there's a lot of things that are more efficient. Like at our office, because I have an office in Southern Oregon, we have 190 agents, and we have gone, of course, to virtual meetings. But we used to do traditional tour. We go out and tour properties, but now we're doing remote tours. So the agent will be at the house and they'll walk the entire team through. But back in the old days, when we do a traditional tour, we'd get 20 or 30 people that walk through the house. But now we're getting, 60, 70, 80 people walking through the house, but doing it virtually. Which one's more efficient? Which one's better? That's an interesting question. When we go back, will we just do the virtual now, or will we go back to the actual traditional tour? So I think there's going to be some measurement there. It's interesting as you go forward, huh? Um, when you are meeting with, and just in terms of client relationships right now, have you, when you're taking buyers out to show homes now, because you're still got buyers, obviously you're probably not putting them in your car, but is that a conversation you're having with them about, how COVID's changing the showing, process? Do you have conversations like that?
Yeah, we got a bunch of supplies at the beginning, and the mask and hand sanitizer and all that. So we have that at the office. We have that at all of our listings, and our buyers agents like have all of that stuff with them. So they definitely talk about, you know making sure the client feels physically safe, and we do everything that they want in that regard.
are you finding that sellers are hesitating listing because of COVID? Like they're pushing like the pause button, and you got
I
like,
think early on they were, like back in March and April, and that really caused like a lack of inventory, and
yeah,
it made it harder for some buyers that wanted to take action to take action. I think in general, if like there were more people who were afraid of listing their house than looking for a house.
mm-hmm,
So I think if anything, it decreased like inventory
for sure.
more, because I think you maybe had more sellers hit pause than buyers.
Do you feel like the sellers are starting to come back out of that, or are they still kind of in that pause mode?
No, they're definitely coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen listing counts go up, and I think in May, they probably heard enough or saw enough about these bidding wars going on that they wanted to.
Decided, let's go.
Right.
Yeah. So are you seeing multiple offers on most of your listings as they come on?
A ton, like
Done.
probably
Yeah.
more than ever. And we've always kind of been in this environment in DC where there will potentially be multiple offers. So it's probably in our market has been a possibility for the last 8 years that you could get a
Mm-hmm.
multiple offer, but right now, like more than ever, you're getting them. I think I had a buyer agent on my team who was like one of 22 offers earlier this week.
Wow. That's an interesting question, really quick, and I've had this question a couple times this week, is a lot of agents across the country, maybe for the first time, are experiencing this situation where they have a buyer, and like your agent comes in, but there's 22 other offers. How do how do you coach your agents to try to, elevate their offer to, like, when you're talking to your buyers, to try to get their offer in a position to win? I mean, how do you coach people along those lines?
Sure. So we we do a pretty good job of training them on how to deal with this, because
You
you
deal
know
with it.
it's been in our environment, maybe not as strong as now, but it's been with us ever since I've been in the game. So um and I kind of have a framework that I teach buyers called the 4 C's. So it's cash, contingencies, closing, and competition. And we that's like how I do it, because it's very easy to remember. So like on cash, we tell them like bigger down payment, bigger
Mm-hmm.
EMD, bigger deposit. That's going to make you look better.
Mm-hmm.
Closing date, typically, shorter is what the sellers are looking for, but we're going to find out ahead of time. Like we're going to ask the agents, like, when's their ideal close date, and do they need a rent back?
Mm.
That's just like easy stuff
Yeah.
to do. Now you do have to have like a good lender, obviously. That and so the lenders that we work with, we try to get them in touch with the buyers early on before they actually find their home, and basically get them to the place where they're pre-approved, and they've already dug through their taxes and know they're not going to find like any surprises that would knock them out of the game.
Sure.
And then when we look at contingencies, and we basically tell them like anything you do that puts uncertainty into this for the seller is going to reduce the standing of your offer.
Yeah.
And I think many of the contingencies that buyers use, like agents just check the box because that's what they've been doing for decades. And a lot of them are, I think a lot of them are not necessarily needed, or sometimes they're protecting a buyer from like the 1 in 1,000 scenario, but
Yeah.
then costing them, winning the
Sale.
house, or costing them negotiating power. So
Right.
we try to, if they're not comfortable eliminating a contingency and we know it's going to be competitive, we at least try to get them to reduce the impact of it. So like
Mm-hmm.
make the appraisal contingency as short as possible, like, or tell them they'll waive it up to
Mm-hmm.
a certain
Price point.
amount. So yeah,
Yeah.
so they're okay putting 10K down more or 20K down, but putting a limit on it. So that we'll do things like that. And the last the last C in that framework is competition. And, you know, we'll go out of our way to find homes for our buyers that aren't on the market yet. So like our buyers agents will do prospecting to try and find homes, like if they're not finding the right one.
So you don't have to say there's no competition.
Correct.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. Yeah,
And
those are,
that's usually like, you know, we're not leaving the seller out to dry in that situation. Like our
right.
conversation is like, look, your home's not on the market, inventory is low, interest rates are low. That's kind of like the standard intro. Uh, you know, what's a price that you would be like really happy with and not be upset that you know, bypass the market. And
Yeah.
that's just all about creating win-win for everyone.
Yeah, and it's less hassle for, I mean, that means there was 22 showings on that house that to generate 22 offers. So you have less showings, less hassle. So there are definitely advantages for sure. And if you can get a competitive price, what's the difference, right? I love those ideas. Those are great. All really, really good. I love it. I think the key thing where you said that you remove uncertainty is super important, because I think when you give, the more certainty sellers have that they know that if they accept your offer, it's going to close, and it's going to close, you know, within a reasonable time. I think that's the key. That's that certainty. And I think that's where a lot of agents make a mistake. They leave things uncertain in their contract. I think that's really, really powerful stuff. That's great.
And I think
Dan,
it's important, you know, we're just having the conversation early in the process. So like we'll have this conversation in the first meeting with them to try to just educate them and give them the awareness they need to make the proper decision. Like if you're having this conversation with your buyer, like at the time they're thinking about writing their offer, you know, you're making them decide a lot of stuff and not giving them time to digest it and think about it. So we just have the conversation early in the process and educate them and just to make them aware of all their options. And, you know, we do well at winning in competitive situations. And, you know, our buyer business is typically about 65 to 70% of our business. And, you know, a lot of big teams have that flipped the other way. Like
yeah.
I don't see a ton of big teams that have as much buyer business as we do. And, you know, even like, you know, we're our own brokerage now, and even with 50 people, in our, you know, in our county, we're doing more buyer business than any other brokers, including ones that
Wow.
have like 250 agents. So like we're the
Wow.
number one brokerage, not just team, but brokerage at representing buyers in our county in Arlington. And we, again, have like 20% of the agents of some of them.
Wow, incredible. Let me ask you one last question on this. Do you guys use escalation clauses? Is that a common thing in your market? An
They
escalation
are.
clause?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
hmm Okay. I'm just curious, because that's a big topic right now too. Dan, where can people find you and learn more about what you do and your coaching, your teaching, your books, and everything else?
Yeah. I mean, you can go to hyperfastagent.com and learn about our programs, our coaching, our events. And then if you go to hyperfasttips.com, you can download, or we send it to you via email, 100 tips from my book. Again,
Nice.
that's hyperfasttips.com.
Nice. Thank you so much. Hey, man, you've dropped a lot of great information on this audience. Thank you so much, my friend. And look forward to talking to you again in the future, man.
Thank you. Enjoyed being on the show. Thanks
All
again.
right, buddy. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye.